opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you. Number 2, approval of the request of Butch Johnson Insurance Agency for a third-year forbearance on its Category 1A flood loan. Johnson intends to pay the first 2 years of capitalized interest in 2013. New interest will continue to accrue and be added to the loan principal until the new due date of June 1st, 2014. Go ahead, Joyce.
And I believe you did receive a summary of Butch Johnson's request. His original principal was $119,424, and his commitment to pay the first 2 years of interest will get him back to that figure of $119,424.
And this is actually, a step in the right direction because he's paying that interest. So his business has gotten to the point where he feels comfortable that he can do that, even though he needs another year of forbearance. He's going to start making payments, which is.
And in 2012, he did pay off his net 10% of the Category 1. So this is the Category 1A that allowed him to build the building, and that's been a good move for him.
Yeah.
Good for the city, too.
Yes.
Any questions?
I'll move that we approve this request.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bunke, seconded by Mr. Colvinson. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you. Number 3. Jeff, would you come forward, please? Thank you. Approval of extending G-Force Inc. matching funds of $30,000 with no match and no additional funds, with the understanding that the repayment on the matching loan and original loan plus capitalized interest would start on time in August and November respectively. This loan would be paid in increments as invoiced and would allow for the launching of the Our Schools Today online program in 4,200 schools around the country. Joyce, go ahead.
Well, I can start, Your Honor.
Oh, go ahead.
And Jeff's here just as a resource if there's any specific questions. We don't, otherwise, if council doesn't need to have him talk to him, I'm sure he'd be happy to just sit and listen. If council would recall, late last year, EDA made a recommendation to set $50,000 aside on a 2-to-1 grant, 2-to-1 matching loan proposal with G-Force, so they could go out and raise money. So for every $2 that they were able to raise, we would kick $1 in out of that revolving loan. And we got about $21,000, I believe, out of that program before it ended in April. Since that time, Jeff has completed his PIPS program. Without getting into too much detail, has gone to Our Schools, which is, they're not the largest outfit that does this, but they're local, they're out of Winona, and they've got, I would say, 5,000, about 5,000 different schools in their system. And they provide like electronic or web-based services for them. Athletic directors use it for a lot of reasons, keeping the calendar of their events, and schools can buy things off of there. And that's really where Jeff's program, this PIPS program, really fits in. It's a great dovetail into that. The difficulty is coming up with the money that's needed to turn that thing on, so that the vendors that Jeff has been lining up to get into this program can be accessed by the local schools. And it's really unique if you think of it almost in terms of Amazon.com, where you can just go right online and you can choose from different vendors that Jeff has signed up. The money kind of goes into all different directions, but it's a great program for the school to use. And I think it's going to be a great benefit not only to them, but of course for G-Force and for Our Schools. And so everyone's really excited about that. The difficulty was getting this last $30,000. And so the EDA took this under advisement, and we really, I think we had a tough time having a discussion last week. We went through a lot of different scenarios, and
A lot of discussion in the subcommittee and then at the EDA meeting and afterwards.
it was interesting because the 3 subcommittee members were actually the 3 commissioners,
Right.
and so the conversation had even sort of morphed after the subcommittee met. The vote was 2-1. The one that voted against the motion that you have in front of you with the recommendation for the 30,000, he was looking more to get back onto that 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 matching type situation. I think the other two, and certainly the mayor can speak to this as well. The feeling was, let's get Jeff the money that he needs to get this thing going, so he can just spend his time lining up vendors and get this product launched. This morning, Jeff came over, and Joyce was here. The 3 of us called and talked to the president of our schools, who was out in California, and we had a phone conversation with him, and I thought it was really good to talk with him and get his perspective on the excitement level that he has about being able to offer this product. One of the concerns I think that we all have is you don't want to turn that switch on and really not be able to perform and have all those vendors lined up. And so in a way, it's good because the school years are winding down at the time that Jeff can go online with this. Gives him a chance to get the vendors lined up and to get that whole system worked out, so that when the schools kick back on in the fall, they're ready to go and they can fully support it. Because it's almost that you don't want to be drinking from a fire hose. You want to make sure that you've got everything lined up and ready to go so you can be successful right out the gate. And so I think this process actually does that. The president talked about his company. It's been over 20 years in the business. In the last 12 years, they've only worked and established contracts with 3 companies. And they've had lots of people who wanted to get into their system. They've been very picky about that. Once they saw Jeff's product, they jumped right on it. They saw the need. They saw that it could really work well with them, and they were eager to sign this contract and get this moving forward. So the request before you is actually it's almost to reinstate that $50,000 and what was left of it, but just to round it off and make it into $30,000 to meet the requirements for G-Force in our schools. We would actually make the payments from the EDA directly to our schools. The money wouldn't go to Jeff; it would go directly to them. The first break is $20,000, and that gets everything ready to go for the switch to get turned on and then tested. Once that's ready to go, the last 10 would go, and then you'd go hot and go online and fully servicing. Our schools promotes and will be promoting this product because it's in their interest. And we spoke today about Salesforce, marketing force that you're getting ready to develop as well. But really, the main emphasis, as you explained it, is to line up those vendors now. It's not so much selling to schools and getting them to use it, it's to get when they do click on it, what's this, turn and click on it, that there's something usable there. Right. And that's really where your focus is going to be. Right. And you're probably staffed fairly well for that right now.
Looking pretty good.
What is the connection, or is there any connection with that tagging for knowing where all the children are being at a certain time and place?
By running PIPs through first and stitching with our school today, that opens up the marketing channel that establishes the groundwork for the ID management to be introduced. So, we've completed 2 patents so far, and we have PIP supply has been ran through and worked with Merchant Gold. That's ready to be patented at this launch period also. So out of Rushford, we've been able to patent 3 patents now successfully. All of them tie into other markets, but all of them tie into the school market. And PIPS is the first one to go in, establishing the marketing network